Hey there, Patriots. Welcome back to the front lines. Death Watch here to give you guys more intel so you can update your personal armory and fight back against the fake news media machine. And today we'll be talking about Sarah Silverman in Sag-Aftra because apparently everybody's supposed to be on strike, but yet some actors are allowed to continue working on independent films, right? And what Sarah Silverman comes out and says, hey, I'm pissed off about this because she kind of says that, well, she was offered a job to work at a film, but she was like, well, we're striking, so I can't work at that job. But yet her friends are out working on independent films. And so she's like, hey, what the heck, guys? I thought we're all supposed to be on a strike. Turns out that SAG-AFTRA is allowing certain people the ability to go around these worker strikes or like these union like because there's certain rules and laws that if you're part of a union, well, if the union says, hey, we're on a strike, you got to be on a strike. You're not allowed to do any other work or anything else because then you'll be in violation of some type of contract, right? However, SAG-AFTRA is writing waivers for certain people to go off and continue working and making money, right? So Sarah Silverman's here saying, hey, what the F is going on, guys? So she says, I feel, pissed off. I know I just must not be understanding something. There are like 40 movies being made right now, Silverman said in a video post on Instagram Thursday night. This was last week, and SAG joined the strike. Its movie stars aren't making movies for you anymore. Now what are we going to do? Well, they're still making movies. What's going on? She says. Deadline's list, which is being updated daily, features 102 film and TV titles. This the vast majority of them movies that have received permission to shoot since SAG-AFTRA work stoppage began on July 14th, with the cast featuring a number of Oscar winners. Quote, movie stars are making movies because they're independent movies, right? That's in quotations. And SAG is allowing it because if they do sell it to streaming, it has to be because streaming is abiding by all things we're asking for, Silverman said, using air quotes around independent. That's just working. The strike ends when they come to the table and we make a deal in agreement, right? So essentially, what it seems to be going down is that SAG-AFTRA is saying, hey, well, they're working. These actors are working for independent film companies who are essentially agreeing to our terms and services, right? But the problem is, it seems like only certain actors are being allowed to work. And the writers, right, the people who first started going on strike, they're still out there protesting. They're still out there striking, while there's other people who are essentially just virtue signaling, saying, "Hey, we support the strike, guys. We support it. Don't get us wrong. We're still supporting it, but we still want to make our money." And SAG-AFTRA is saying, "Hey, they still need to make their money." But yet they're going to these independent film companies who are making these movies, and they're making the movies and selling them, right? They're making these movies to be put where? Back on Disney Plus, back on Hulu, right? In my previous video, I was like, hey, I want independent film companies to make movies, right? So they can do what? Take it directly to the theater, so they can go directly, they can skip the middleman, which is Disney, Hulu, Netflix. They go straight to the movie theaters, they go straight to the film festivals and show their products directly to the consumers, right? Instead, these independent film companies, right? Quotation marks, independent film companies are instead going behind the backs of the people on strike, right? They're essentially Disney, Hulu, Netflix seems Disney, because Disney owns all of it, right? Disney, Netflix, Warner Bros, Turner Broadcasting, right? It seems like they're going behind the backs of the union, the unions, right? Contracting independent film companies to do their work for them, and so that they can then have their work put back on their own streaming services, right? So what Sarah Silverman does is she then ends up having to talk to Fran Drescher, who are SAG leadership, Fran Drescher and Duncan Crabtree Ireland, and so they simply come out and say, hey, this is the agreement that we've kind of came to, right? The interim agreements mean that these indie productions are agreeing and adhering to all the terms that SAG wants, right? The ideal version of what we're fighting for. And then anyone who wants to buy those productions, streaming or cable or whatever, AMPTP owned movie theater, etc., they have to adhere to all the SAG terms or whatever has finally been agreed upon at the end of all this, which will likely be something a little less than everything SAG wants, but still be great. So, from the SAG leadership perspective, this shows the AMPTP, right? That it proves to them that we're asking for is not unreasonable and can be done. In fact, is being done, and it forces them to either participate in it if they want the product, the film, or the TV show. So what they're trying to say here is simply that, hey, these independent studios are agreeing to our terms of use. Okay, our new terms of use via the strike. And if these bigger film companies like Disney, like Netflix, like Turner Broadcasting, if they want to purchase these movies to then put it on their streaming platforms, well, guess what? They also have to agree to the terms of service. But the problem is that really what's going to happen in reality, right? Or are these people just simply saying, hey, we're going to bypass these people, all these writers, all these actors who are on strike, we're simply just going to bypass them by contracting independent film companies to film the movies, film everything that we want, and then just directly just take that content and toss it on our streaming platforms, right? Our own in-house writers are going to be out there on the streets complaining about not getting paid enough, and these companies just say, hey, we can just bypass these guys by just working directly with these other independent film companies with their own writers, with their own equipment and all this other crap, right? Maybe even leased out some of our equipment to them to work with, and then we can just sit here and say, hey, well, you got nowhere else to take your movies to, because again, all these independent film companies are like, hey, we only see legitimacy from these bigger networks, right? So we're more than happy to make these films for Hollywood, for Disney, for Turner Broadcasting, for Netflix. We're more than happy to make these movies for them and then have our works put on their streaming platforms, right? And so that's really what the issue is that these independent film companies are not taking these products and going directly to the consumer with it. They're still trying to get their money from the bigger corporations. Okay, so Vanity Fair kind of breaks it down a little bit easier here by saying, although the joint SAG-Aftra and WGA strikes have halted nearly every major production in Hollywood, more than 40 projects have been cleared to continue filming under an interim agreement aimed at independent films. But some actors have cried foul on that technicality, including Sarah Silverman, who publicly opposed this practice in a video shared to her Instagram on Thursday. What the F? I got offered an indie movie and I said no, so did a bunch of my friends, and now some of my friends are saying yes. Silverman said in her video, I'm really pissed. While there are more than 300 member companies of the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, AMPTP, production companies including A24, which won Best Picture Oscar last year, excuse me, I had to zoom in a little bit, which won Best Picture Oscar last year and are not part of the organization, A24 is still making films now despite the strike, as other truly independent producers, reportedly featuring actors including Anne Hathaway, Matthew McConaughey, Paul Rudd, and Gina Ortega. Silverman said she didn't know if she should be mad at these movie stars making these indie movies that are obviously going to go to streaming, or angry with SAG for making this interim deal with these indie movies, right, during the strike. It's called scabbing. You've made that so clear that it's scabbing. She continued, quote, now all of a sudden movie stars can make movies if they're indie movies that were where they're promised they'll only sell it if X, Y, and Z are met. That's called the end of the strike. Okay, right? So she's completely correct in all this, right? If the whole point of the strike is that, hey, if all the people who are striking are not being fully represented, are not getting everything that they want, well, then we continue to strike. Nobody is going to work anywhere until all, right, because that's the whole problem with these unions, is that it's all about the collective, right? Collective bargaining, right? If the whole collective gets what they want, then the whole collective gets to continue working. If no, one part of the collective doesn't get what they want, well, then everybody has to stay on strike. But however, this union is sitting here saying, well, actually, there's two tiers, right? If one part of the people that we like and that we're working with actually are getting what they want, well, then we'll allow them to continue working. However, those writers who were the ones who initially started this whole strike situation, they're still out there. They're still saying, hey, companies, we want better pay, better wages. So to help us with these ever increasing living costs to continue working out in California, in Hollywood, and all these other places, right? They haven't met, these studios are ignoring their demands, right? And so for SAG-Aftra and all these other union people, corpos, who are sitting here allowing these actors to continue working for independent film companies and then sell their product back to the streaming services, right? Then there's really no need for these writers anymore, right? Because these film companies are contracting independent film companies to make the films for them, right? The writers are here saying that, hey, we won't make any more films for you major studios until you give us more money. They're saying, well, screw that. We can just hire these independent film companies to do the writing for us, to make the content for us, and then they'll just sell it back to us because they all want their products to be shown on our platforms because we're the only platforms that are legitimate in this movie industry, right? And so it's completely ridiculous, right? So again, in my last video, I talked about Barry Diller comes out and says, hey, even if this strike does end, there's not going to be a lot of trust between the actual writers, the actual union people in the film industries. But now you're also going to see how there's not going to be a lot of trust between the actual worker bees, the union corporal heads, and the actual corporation film industry, right? So now it's a three-way kind of like, the good, bad, and the ugly, right? They're all out there kind of like pointing guns at each other, trying to figure out who's going to jump first. So this industry has to be gone. This industry is going to collapse because there's no trust between the actual workers, the unions who are supposed to be representing them, and then the corporations that's supposed to be there to employ these people, right? So all this crap, it just seems like it's just going to go down in the toilet eventually, right? And what I want is for these independent film companies to say, hey, we don't need to put our product on these streaming services. We don't need to put our products on Disney Plus, on Hulu, on Netflix. We don't need to do any of that. We can just go directly to AMC, to all these IMAX theaters, or to film festivals and give our products directly to the consumer. That's what I want to see. But these companies, all right, but I guess when it comes to A24 and all these other film companies, right? Because, let's be honest, the Oscars and all this other crap, the Oscars, the Emmys, all these other crap, they're all rigged, okay? They're all for, people who work in the industry to kind of jerk each other off and say, hey, pat each other on the back and say, hey, we're doing good work, right? So for A24 to be a Oscar winner, right, they're not going to win an Oscar again if they take the product directly to the consumer, right? No matter how successful the movie is, right? They have to play ball, so they have to, in a way, right? Again, to even get this opportunity to continue making films, right? They have to probably already made an agreement with Disney or Hulu or Netflix or whatever streaming service that they're Paramount Plus, wherever they're going to put this product at. They probably already had to make a previous agreement that, hey, once we film this movie with these actors, we have to turn it into you guys for it to be put on a streaming service, right? That's probably what the pre-arranged agreement under the table was, okay? These companies, these independent film companies, are not going to get these contracts unless they play ball with the bigger Hollywood corporation, okay? So they're not going to get their Emmys, they're not going to get their Tonys, they're not going to get any other awards if they don't play ball with the bigger Hollywood infrastructure, right? They can't go, right, and that's a problem because these people only care about the awards, right? They only care about legitimacy, right? They only see legitimacy in winning awards, not by actually making a good quality content, and actually getting a bunch of people to come and watch it, right? Again, I keep going back to Angel Studios, right? They're not, most likely not going to get any awards for their movie. However, it is still a super successful movie. $25 million budget, made over $125 million back in profit. Okay, so let me know what you guys think about all this craziness down in the comment section below. Like always, stay safe, stay sane, be vigilant, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you Patriots on the battlefield.